Someone who's followed President Carter's career over the years, Ian Houston, who is a UK columnist and commentator, honorary professor at the University of West Scotland, based in the Washington, D.C. area. Ian, 100, good age, life lived, and he lived it to the full. It's still sad to hear the news today, though, isn't it?
It's always sad to hear someone's passing, absolutely, and my condolences to the Carter family, which they are an extraordinary family and leave such a wonderful legacy. I think that as we remember the individual of Jimmy Carter, he really, truly exemplified, while a political figure, that's how we came to know him as an individual. He just exemplified kindness and empathy, compassion, honesty, integrity, and respect towards others. And I think this is a disposition is something we need desperately in America. And I hope the services over the next couple of weeks that honor President Carter will serve as an inspiration and an impetus for a greater degree of common decency.
Well, one of the big things that many in the Northeast here have fond memories is when he came to visit here. It was a huge moment in history for us. Do you know why he visited Newcastle in particular?
Well, he had been influenced very much by some of his heroes. He had known that Dr. Martin Luther King had come to Newcastle, and he was very influenced by that and sort of the arc of civil rights in America and why Dr. King had visited Newcastle. So it's important to recognize that this was his first overseas visit. This was 4 months after his inauguration in 1977. He came in May of 1977 to Newcastle, but he was there really to engage with the Northeast and to visit a place that no sitting president had ever visited. Ulysses S. Grant had come to Newcastle in 1877, but that was post-presidency. So Carter came because he was influenced by King and others, Frederick Douglass, who had come there. He was aware of that. He wanted to unveil an initiative that was designed to foster exchanges between Newcastle and Atlanta, Georgia, which he did launch with Rosalind Carter, this initiative, which even goes today. These exchanges between people and learning between Newcastle and Atlanta, dialogue. That's specifically why he went. But he was very aware of that history again as he came to Newcastle. Was officially made a Geordie, and the Carter Center and the Carter Library maintains the document actually that he received while he was there.
When he's there, my dad, who was at law enforcement at the time, is stood 2 people away from him when he says, "How are the lads?" If you look at the photo, I can spot me dad, a much younger version of me dad, stood right beside him.
That's extraordinary that your dad had that connection. As your dad would have known, and you would have known through the stories that were told to your family, it was such a remarkable visit. The response that he received, 20,000 cheering members of the crowd gathered outside the Newcastle Civic Center that May morning where your dad was president. So many others were there to witness this exchange. It was just truly a warm welcome for an individual who was a transitional leader in America. He wasn't sure how the world was perceiving him, and then he came to London first and then up to Newcastle. Yes. He was just really quite blown away by the warm reception that he received and never forgot that.
One of the things I love about President Carter is when I was a kid, when I was growing up, you got taught that anybody could be president in America. Anybody could start off and you could build your way up and you could become president one day. And I think he's one of those people who embodies that. When he finished his presidency, he didn't just sit back. He didn't just open the library. He didn't just rest on his laurels. He kept on working. He built homes for people. He wasn't just, I'm going to put the money in to help build these houses. I'm actually going to be there building them. It's amazing, his lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that is so very important that you raise this, because I have written quite a bit about the assessment of a presidency. We often, as historians or writers or pundits, we look at the chapter of the years that they occupy the White House. And that is important to assess a presidency as to how they perform while as president. But I'm a strong believer in an assessment through the lens of history that really focuses in on what they did post-presidency.
Yeah.
And for me, I must say, to your point, I believe strongly that President Carter is one of the best, if not the best, presidents in American history for how to operate as an individual who has held that office. And he was exemplary in this regard.
You're going to be in high demand at this moment in time because you are the expert on this gentleman. Can I ask, Why did you pick Carter? There's been a lot of presidents. There's been a lot of people. What made you gravitate towards him?
Well, I would just say that for me, I gravitate to him because he exemplifies what I try to see in others, and I think what you and your audience likes to see in others is kindness and empathy and compassion, honesty, integrity, and that respect towards others. This is something that motivates me. I look for examples in political leaders that exemplify those qualities, and so I gravitate to a human being that harkens back to an era where respect for other people is really what most of all should motivate us. So I'm drawn to him for those character attributes, and I think many people are as well, and I think we will see those spotlighted over the next couple of weeks through these services.
Ian Houston, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
On BBC iPlayer.